Welcome to another set of video notes. We're finally starting chapter 2, and our first lesson is called How to Represent Relations and Functions. And when we talk about relations, we're not talking about grandma or grandpa, or your aunts and your uncles and your cousins. What we're talking about is how two numbers relate to each other or have some kind of connection. Sometimes you're going to call that even a function, but we'll get to that in a minute. Okay? The first thing that we want to talk about is when you have those relations, there's going to be two parts. There's a domain and there's a range. Do you remember hearing those terms before? Domain refers to the first number, and the range refers to what's connected to that domain. We're going to look at some more of these. Now, your book shows you, and this can go on your study card too, 4 different ways to represent relations. The easiest way is an ordered pair. Okay? So -2 and 2 have a connection. -2 and -2 have a connection. 0 and 1, 3 and 1. Those are ordered pairs. There's a pair of number, and you've got to be careful about the order. This might kind of bring to mind 2 variables, an x and a y. So we can also show the same relationship in a table. -2 matches up to 2. -2 can also match up to -2. 0 can match up to 1. Excuse me. And 3 can match up to 1. Once again, the domain are all these first numbers, the first part of the pair. The range is the second part. Another thing you could do is graph them. And hopefully you're all familiar with this. Remember, from left to right is your x-axis, and up and down is your y-axis. And this is your x point. Now, because it's negative, it tells you to move 2 to the left and 2 up. Okay? And we also can do this point, 2 to the left. Now, look, this is -2, so you're going to move 2 down. Okay? We can go 0, 1, so that means no left or right, but up 1. And we can even do 3, 1. 3 to the right and 1. So, for this table, for this set of ordered pairs, this is the graph that we have. Okay? And hopefully this graphing goes okay. Your first coordinate is your x, left and right. Your second coordinate is your y, down or up. Sorry. All right, the other thing you could do is a mapping diagram. And when you do that, you list everything that's in your domain. And so in our domain, we have -2. What's another number? Well, we're not going to write it twice, but we also have a 0, and we also have a 3. And then we can circle those. Then we're also going to make a little circle for the range, and we're going to put all the numbers that fall in the range. Let's see, we have 2, and we have -2, and we have 1. But the other thing you have to do is draw arrows. So like, what does -2 pair up with? 2. So you draw a 0. What does -2 pair up with? It also pairs with -2. What does 0 pair up with? 1. And what does 3 pair up with? It also pairs with 1. Okay? So, 4 different ways to represent how numbers are related. Okay, you got that. Well, we're going to move on now to the next part, which is the idea of a function. Functions, here's your rule. 1 output for each input. Okay? So, I kind of made a comment. There is no choice for x. So if you look back here, this x got a choice. It got to pair up with 2 or -2. So what we have here is not a function. Okay? A function is just a special relationship. Okay? So we've got that, not a function. In your homework, I'm going to ask you to judge, is this a function or not? Okay? So sometimes maybe you'll want to list out as a diagram. And if you have one x that gets a choice of y's, not a function. One way I've taught this in the past is I say the domain or the x's are like the boys, and if a boy has 2 different girlfriends, it's just not any fun. So it's not a function, get it? Fun function, okay? And the boys might say, but that is really cool. No, it's not, because when those girls find out, your life will no longer be fun, let me tell you. So that's one way to remember it. Another thing you can look at is it's called the vertical line test. And what that says is if we draw a vertical line and it touches the points in 2 different spots, not a function. It doesn't pass the vertical line test. Okay? So over here, if we look, if I draw a vertical line here, yep, it's only going through 1. If I draw one here, yep, it's only going through 1. But if I draw one right here, oh shoot, it went through 2 different points, so it's not a function. One way to kind of remember it, if you had a curvy shape like this, is there any place you could draw a vertical line and it would cross more than once? No. So this is a function. If I draw my curvy line more like this way, and I draw through, did I cross it more than one spot? Yes. So it is not a function. Okay, so we need to talk just a little bit more. We've got a few more examples we're going to look at. One thing, we're going to talk about equations in 2 variables. Now we kind of got used to this a little bit last chapter because sometimes we had problems and there were 2 variables in it. And what was the most common set or common 2 variables to use? I'm sure you're all saying it. We often use x and y. X is called your independent variable and y is your dependent, because we know we can plug in a number for x and get y. Okay? So right here, I have a way to graph functions, or we can even refer to them as equations. And we're going to look at the difference between these in a minute. It's not a real big difference. You don't have to worry about it. Okay, these are steps you all did in Algebra 1, and hopefully you got pretty good at it. The first thing you're going to do is make a table. You get to pick numbers for x. You plug them in, or the fancy word, you remember? Yeah, evaluate. We're going to plug it into the equation to find y. We keep doing that a bunch of times, and then we can graph and connect the points. Okay, now, so we're going to practice this. We've got an equation, y equals 3x minus 5. We make our table, and we're just going to pick a number. If you were here, I'd say so-and-so, pick a number, but you're not. So I'm going to pretend